Hello guys, I hope wherever you're watching us from, you're having a great time. This is AfriPost and welcome to today's video. Now, it is always said that until the lion knows how to write, the story of the jungle will always favor the hunter. And this is the case for African Americans and Africans. We have had many writers and many books have been published here and there. Many of them tend to praise and uplift the position of the white person. And then there are those few writers who have tried to write reasonable books that African Americans can use for the sake of understanding their identity and understanding their personality as they are. We also know that the kind of challenges that African Americans go through within the United States are very many. And therefore, it is for this reason that authors, especially blacks, have come out to express themselves and speak about the issues affecting members of their community. One of the authors that was very eloquent on this is Toni Morrison, who is an award-winning African-American author who has worked extensively on books relating to the issues personally affecting African Americans. I want us to listen to this interview that she had, where she was questioned about what informed her decision to choose the writing path that only focuses on issues affecting African Americans. Let's listen to this clip and then react to it after.
Bill Moyers, I think, once asked you the question, can you imagine writing a novel that's not centered about race? And you said, absolutely.
Yes.
Will you?
That's what he asked me. I think, see, I answered the question he didn't pose. You know, Tolstoy writes about race.
Yeah.
All the time. So does Zola, so does James Joyce. Now, if anybody can go up to an imaginary James Joyce and say, you write about race all the time, it's central in your novels, when are you going to write about what? Because you see, the person who asks that question doesn't understand that he or she is also raced. So to ask me when am I going to stop, or when, if I can, is to ask a question that, in a sense, is its own answer. Yes, I can write about white people. White people can write about black people. Anything can happen in art. There are no boundaries there. Having to do it or having to prove that I can do it is what was embarrassing or insulting. In this book, I did.
It was insulting that people, help me understand, what was insulting? The idea that you felt like you had to prove that you could write without...
Yeah, the question was posed as though it were a desirable thing to do, right, to write about white people or to write not about race. That's what that means to me. And that it was a difficult thing to do, a higher level of artistic endeavor, or it was more important, and that I was still writing about marginal people, and why don't I come into the mainstream?
Aren't you importing too much into the question?
Maybe.
I think so.
Well, what else could it be, Charlie? What does that mean? What does that question mean? You tell me if I'm making too much.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I don't think it probably means, I didn't ask the question, so I don't think it probably means, but I don't think it had to do about you were marginalizing by not writing about.
It only works if I can go to William Styron, well, maybe not William Styron because he has done it, somebody, major, white, and say, as a journalist.
Can you write about black people?
That's right. Can I say that? What kind of question is that to put to Ed Doctorow, who has done it, by the way?
Sure.
But I mean, if I can say, when are you going to write about black people to a white writer, if that's a legitimate question to a white writer, then it is a legitimate question to me. I just don't think it is. You know, so the glove has to be pulled inside out. If it's, in other words, it's not a literary question. It has nothing to do with the literary imagination. It's a sociological question that should not be put to me. I couldn't ask that of any writer who was, I wouldn't ask it of a black writer when you're going to write about white people. Now, maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me now or later. if I've blown it up all out of proportion. I don't think so. I just don't know what the question means except what I think it means. You think it may just be a little question, a little curious, you know, a small incidental question. When are you gonna? Maybe I'm responding because I have had reviews in the past that have accused me of not writing about white people. I remember a review of Sula in which the reviewer said, this is all well and good, but one day she, meaning me, will have to face up to the real responsibilities and get mature and write about the real confrontation for black people, which is white people. As though our lives have no meaning and no depth without the white gaze. And I've spent my entire writing life trying to make sure that the white gaze was not the dominant one in any of my books. And the people who helped me most arrive at that kind of language were African writers. Chinua Achebe, Bessie Head, those writers who could assume the centrality of their race because they were Africans. And they didn't explain anything to white people. Those questions were incomprehensible to them. Those questions that I would have as a minority living in an all-white country like the United States. But when I read the poetry of César, or the poetry of Senghor, or the novels particularly, Things Fall Apart was more important to me than anything. Only because there was a language, there was a posture, there were the parameters. I could step in now, and I didn't have to be consumed by or be concerned by the white gaze. That was the liberation for me. It has nothing to do with who reads the books. Everyone, I hope, of any race, any gender, any country. But my sovereignty and my authority as a racialized person had to be struck immediately with the very first book. And it was strange because in this country, many books, particularly then, 40s, 50s, you could feel the address of the narrator over my shoulder, talking to somebody else, talking to somebody white. I could tell because they're explaining things that they didn't have to explain if they were talking to me. It was that. So it's profound for me. So that I may be, you may be right, maybe I'm over-dramatizing the whole question, which was innocent enough because the problem of being free to write the way you wish to without this other racialized gaze is a serious one for an African-American writer. Very serious.
I think this is one of those times where what you just said, you gave and ennobled an answer regardless of the significance
that's good.
of the question.
From the clip, I think it is evident that Toni Morrison was somebody who was so indebted to black people because she was always desiring to express her feelings as a black person. You know, as it has always been said, many blacks have not had enough people coming out to speak about their issues because whenever they tried to come and speak out, some of them were suppressed, and the best way through which they could bring out these issues that they're going through is by people like Toni Morrison coming out to speak and telling the world how a black person feels and why discrimination and the hatred that blacks continue to face within the United States is something that is very, very inexcusable. And that is why I believe that the story of African Americans and the story of the black people should and must only be written by blacks, because most of the books that have always come out, everybody who has always talked about blacks, especially the white people, they have always given us a different view of black people because they do not understand what being black is. And that is why sometimes they can make fun of us in their books. They can give us certain roles that are demeaning to us. They can always put us as characters who are not understandable, characters who are very messy so that they tell their narrative. And that is why I think I appreciate the fact that Toni Morrison took her time to put her work towards speaking out for the black person. I don't know what to think about this, but please, if you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Please also don't forget to give us your comment down in the comment section so that we can also understand what your view is on the topic that we have just discussed. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.